What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back, and he's back. Adrian Yanez back here on Junkie Radio. We're excited to talk to him about his latest fight booking versus Davey Grant on November 20th at a UFC Fight Night. Welcome back, Adrian. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Super excited for this matchup, and man, I'm just ready to go already.
It's going to be a busy year that you've had in 2021, but you're making the most of it. And even though Davey's coming off a loss, he had won 3 in a row. So he's on a little bit of a run. He just had a minor setback, as happens sometimes in MMA. And of course, from your end, you come with a 7-fight win streak, third fight in a row in the UFC, proper UFC, 4 if we include Contender series. So you're definitely, I think, on the better streak right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Man, Davey, I don't even really consider that like a loss because it was really competitive. You know, Cheeto did what Cheeto did, and he just pretty much just like put the pressure on, and he didn't fold underneath that pressure. So I look at that, and I don't look at that as a loss either, because that first round he did put it on Cheeto a little bit. So I don't look at it as a loss. He's tough as nails. I don't even think that's that much of a setback. So he's on a streak as well. So I'm like fully focused. This guy's tough, and I'm ready. Super excited for this matchup.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's well known through The Ultimate Fighter. He's been a veteran for a few years now. And all he has to do really is win a fight, and the media will then present him as you're on a streak, 4 out of your last 5, which sounds really, really good. It's just that I guess years ago, the UFC very rarely matched up fighters coming off a win versus fighters coming off a loss. But now it's a little bit different, especially during the pandemic when able bodies are ready to go. As long as they have that momentum, of a trajectory upwards, which Davey, again, had because he competed in his last fight, even though he came out on the short end, then I think it works for them, and I think this will work for you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a tough competitive fighter, and like I said, I don't consider his last loss necessarily even a loss, like because it was competitive. But Cheeto does what Cheeto does. He goes out there and he like marches forward every single time. So like just the fact that he went all 3 with Cheeto and didn't whimper, didn't cower under the pressure or anything like that. Like that to me just shows a lot. So looking at that, I know I got my hands full with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you start to connect the dots, Cheeto's got Frankie Edgar coming up. So if you kind of follow along a little bit, because he's obviously been in the UFC a little bit longer than you, but if you start to follow along, I'm sure you're starting to get an idea of where you sit within the UFC. You win your next fight, that's 4 in a row in the UFC, 5 if you include Dana White, 8 in a row altogether, and now you might start to maybe catch a veteran on their way down, somebody that has a name, and then all of a sudden maybe you get that headliner on a fight night. You know what I mean? So like, it seems like you're past the newcomer stage, and now you're settling into a young vet.
Oh yeah, man. I'm always gonna consider myself a newcomer, anyways, and that I'm a fight like I am the newcomer trying to prove something, and I still am. I really am. Davey Grant, he's a veteran. He's been in the game for a very, very long time, and then also somebody like Cheeto, who's had he's had a lot of fights in the UFC, so he deserves that rank fight like Frankie. But the performances that I've been putting on, and I've been stopping these guys in pretty good dramatic fashion, that like it's inevitable for me to only start getting these bigger, better top names anyways. I'm pretty sure that by the end of this, like, man, I might be on the radar of like if coming in I stop Davey Grant, people are gonna start looking at me a lot differently because Davey Grant's never been stopped. He's only gone to decision. So man, if I'm the first guy to stop Davey Grant, man, that only makes the options for me so much bigger. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are gonna look at that and be like, oh well, if he finishes Davey Grant, then how high is his ceiling? And he's the first person to finish Davey Grant who's never been finished. That only puts my ceiling super, super high. So man, I'm excited for this matchup. And man, if it brings me into the range where I'll be able to fight like a Frankie Edgar, Raya Faber, Dominic Cruz, those guys, man, I would completely love that, because all those guys that I'd mentioned are legends of the game and are the reasons why like the lighter weight classes were ever a thing. Even like a person like Jose Aldo, but even like Jose Aldo, he's like from way back, but also he's still competing like top 3, top 5 consistently. So man, my trajectory is still high. I just need to go out there and start Davey Grant and get another 50 G's. So I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great. I need that. Like I need that stoppage because at the end of the day, big names on my resume, that's what I want.
If I do the math, those guys like Edgar and Aldo have been fighting over a decade. And if I take 10 years off your age, you may have even been a high schooler watching these cats, and now you occupy the same division. That's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, actually, I was in high school. I was in high school watching Jose Aldo run the WEC and all that stuff. And even when they translated over to the UFC, man, I was super stoked, super ecstatic, and man, it's just been nothing but like I've been in awe every single time. Like I see one of these guys, like man, like whenever I seen Anderson Silva, like of course anybody who sees Anderson Silva is gonna be like, oh my goodness, this is so crazy. Yeah, no, to me, I was super fan struck and all that stuff. Even somebody like Kevin Holland, like who's from Texas and everything, whenever I saw him, I was like, oh, like dude, I was a little bit starstruck. But then it was pretty cool for him, like for him to be like, hey, bro, you're Adrian Yanez. It's like, yeah, it's like on my debut, he knew who I was. So I think that's pretty cool. But like watching all these guys come up and seeing how long they've been running the division, like Frankie Edgar was the 155 champ. Like holy crap, like that says something. And he's fighting at 135. Man, like I admire a lot of these guys. And if it wasn't for people like Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber, the 135 division probably never wouldn't have been around in the UFC. And now that it is translated over, it's already been a long time, and there's still like top names, top billings. Like holy crap, that says a lot. And the fact that I'm legitimately probably only like about 2 to 3 fights away from them, that makes it even like holy crap. This is surreal to me.
You know what's surreal to me, and Goz is going to ask you some questions right now, but I just want to get this quick thought in. What's surreal to me is Edgar and Penn fought, and I saw them fight. Well, they fought 3 times, but I saw them fight one of them. And what's weird is Edgar is now at 35, and at one point, Penn competed at light heavyweight. Imagine how crazy that is that they both have done, had weight classes between. He fought as a light heavyweight once. He's fought as a light heavyweight, middleweight, and then been champ at welterweight and lightweight, talking about Penn. And then Edgar, champ as a lightweight, and he's competed as a featherweight and bantamweight. So 2 legends there of the lighter weight classes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Their accolades run way back, man. It's still crazy to see that even like Frankie Edgar still competing at the very highest of levels,
Mm-hmm.
Adrian, so you've pretty much done everything the promotion has asked from you. You've performed in the cage. The fans are all about it. You got us drinking Dr. Peppers left and right over here. At what point could it be this fight where you think maybe you can start calling the shots? In other words, instead of the matchmaker sending you that email going, we got this and this and that, what do you think? Maybe one where Adrian says, this is what I would like for my next fight?
Man, honestly, I like I like being given the matchups. I really don't care who I fight, honestly. But at the end of the day, it would be nice to be able to get up on there and just be like, hey, look, Frankie Edgar. Yeah, look, Dominic Cruz. Yeah. But I'm not on their radar yet. Like I'm not a big enough name where they can be like, oh, yeah, we want to fight that Yanez kid or anything like that. I'm pretty like I try to keep myself pretty level, ground level type of guy. Don't try to like overshoot where I'm at or anything like that. So if I go out there and I stop Davey Grant, then yes, that puts like 100%. Like yeah, those guys should be looking at me. But will they fight me? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But because it's gonna be really hard even just to break in the top 15, just because a lot of those guys, they don't fight someone who's not unranked. They want to fight someone who's in front of them. They either want to fight someone a big name, and the only big name outside the top 15, like the biggest name is of course Sean O'Malley, but everybody else in the top 15, they don't want to face an unranked opponent. So it's always kind of like a stalemate or a jam or anything like that. The guys that will take a fight somebody who's not ranked in the top 15, those guys are one of a few, because A lot of people want to keep their number next to their name, and it's gonna be real hard breaking those top 15s. But if I keep performing the way I'm doing, then I'm pretty sure I'm gonna knock somebody out the rankings. And they're gonna insert me into there pretty soon, anyways.
So some of those names you shared, like Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz, I can't remember who the fighter was. And they weren't trying to say that they were scared. But what they said was fighting a legend in Vanderlei Silva. George, maybe you'll remember who this was on our show. But they said right before the fight started and he started doing the whole thing with his hands, they had that moment where they went, holy shit, that's Vanderlei Silva. That's somebody I grew up watching. It kind of like threw him off for a second. Of those three names that I brought up, which one do you think would elicit that reaction more from you?
Aldo, hands down Aldo, because like whenever he fought in Houston this last time around, I remember just being in the stands and just watching his walkout, and like I felt the chills. Like I felt chills. I was looking. I was like, I was so excited. I was like starstruck at that moment. I was like, oh my goodness, it's Jose Aldo. He's walking out. Like this is like the featherweight king. This is the guy who like I admired. I wouldn't miss a fight. I watched breakdowns of this guy. Like I legitimately idolized that like Aldo. So watching him walk out, I had those chills and everything. And then once he was stepping into the cage, I remember exactly what he would do. Walk straight to the corner, look down, never even looked up at the opponent, not even whenever they would touch gloves or anything like that. So I was recording. I recorded a part of the fight just because I remember like how it felt. Like I'd kind of take myself back to those moments because big Jose Aldo fan. So I know if I was on the other side of that octagon with him, I know I'd probably be like, holy fuck. Sorry for cussing. I'd be like, holy shit. Like, sorry for cussing again. Damn, I'm fighting Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo. And then, but I think by that time, I'm pretty sure I would already run through the scenario like so many times through my head that I'd be like, oh, like, yeah, I visualized this before. I seen it. Now I'm here. Now it's time to execute whatever I'm doing. So it all depends. I may or may not have it depending on how many times I've actually visualized stepping in the cage and across the cage there's Jose Aldo. So I would probably still be starstruck and everything. So I would need like 30 seconds to a minute to be like, all right, get it together.
We've actually talked rankings a little bit, but let's talk unofficial rankings, ones that never get talked about. Where do you rank amongst Dana White's Contender Series contestants? The best to ever come off that. Where do you rank there?
Man, I definitely think I'm top 5. Definitely top 5. I think a couple of people like I definitely say that as much as that guy's in my division, he's probably number 1 right now because he's making the most buzz, the most amount of the most noise right now. Sean O'Malley's number 1 for that for sure. You can't deny what he's done or deny like the buzz that he's brought, like the buzz that he's brought just around him and everything. So he's definitely number 1. I would probably put Dan Ige at number 2, and then there's a couple other guys that were on there that did amazing, did great. But I feel I'm still like I feel like I'm top 5. I'm probably fighting for number 3, but I just need to go out there and keep putting on some great performances. Like if I knock out Davey Grant, that actually might solidify me as 3. And then if I fight a ranked opponent, I stop that person, that puts me at number 2. And then I go out there, beat Sean O'Malley, and that puts me definitely at number 1. Go out there, get the belt, solidify at number 1. So there's a couple little things here and there that I'd have to do, but yeah, there's a lot of great guys that are coming out the Contender Series, man. So they're like always pushing up the how can I say it? They're always pushing the limits and making it look really, really good, man. So I think I'm definitely top 5 for the Dana White Contender Series like alums.
Man, now I feel like we got to come up with those rankings, George. When he was breaking it down, that is pretty interesting. Davey Grant is the Ultimate Fighter guy. Is there even a small part of this that's Ultimate Fighter versus Dana White Contender Series?
Yeah, absolutely. I had to go out there and make a statement. You know, even if I whether I like it or not, it's gonna be brought up anyways. He's the Ultimate Fighter guy, and I'm the Contender Series guy. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna show him why the Contender Series is way better than the Ultimate Fighter. So at the end of the day, I know I'm I'm gonna have it 1-0 for Dana White Contender Series, guys.
We're gonna have to start keeping track of that as well. That might be a little rivalry. Did even 1% of you, when you got the call from House, Jeremy, whoever, did part of you say, whoa, hold on a second, November 20, and look to see if the fight's happening before Thanksgiving? That way you can splurge during Thanksgiving?
Man, honestly, I was just trying to make it before December. Because like I'm having a kid, and since like it's like the due date's December 18th, so I'm like, I gotta have it before. I gotta fight before this kid. Anywhere in November, I prefer early in November, but since it was like November 20th, like like Thanksgiving and all that really didn't hit my mind at all. I would have fought the week of Thanksgiving if anything, because whether I liked it or not, there was gonna be leftovers for weeks anyway. So I still would have been able to splurge.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving? What's your favorite part of Thanksgiving? Your favorite dish, food, whatever?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot. So well, my dessert for sure is definitely pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is probably my favorite. Like I go out my way to eat it. Like if right after a fight, I will make sure I go get a pumpkin pie just so I can go eat it.
Oh, wow.
Like on my own. Yeah, like it doesn't even have to be associated with Thanksgiving. I just buy it and I'll eat it. Also, man, like the gravy and mashed potatoes like are amazing. I don't like just full carb. Like I'm all carbs, no protein. I don't care. Like all carbs and everything. So the stuffing as well, man. If I do any meat, like it has to be like fried turkey. It has to be deep fried turkey. So man, if I do that, it's game over. I'm definitely gonna be walking around like the middleweight limit.
Hey, by the way, pop quiz. When I hit you with that trivia about BJ Penn, do you know who he fought at 205? The fight.
Lyoto Machida.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's super nuts to me because I remember I watched that fight on YouTube. I just remember just being like, two things hit in my head. I was like, man, Lyoto Machida looks a little bit fluffier for his age at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he had a shaved head, and then BJ Penn I was like, man, he looked like me whenever I first started fighting or first started training. He was like fluffy, overweight, and everything. I was like, man, that don't look good at all.
So for that fight, it was an agreed upon. It was like they waived the weight class, I guess is the easiest way to say it. Machida, the reason he looked fluffier is he weighed 225 at the time. 220, 225, 230, something like that.
Damn.
Then didn't even make it to 205. But 205 is the limit. Once you're 186 and a half and over, you're no longer a middleweight. You're a light heavyweight. And because you get the 1 pound allowance. So I think Penn made it to the low 190s. But technically, I guess it may have even been a heavyweight fight. It's just that with Penn weighing less than 205, we just say he fought at light heavyweight once. But yeah, man, that was the Wild West. 2 decades ago, what was happening was just, you can't believe that.
Man.
Now it's different, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, there's still some crazy things that happen today. Like during these days, like you get those really weird promoters who would say, yeah, no, this fighter definitely weighed 155, but yet they come in like at 200 pounds and all that stuff, or like they do the little weight tricks here and there, step on the scale, make the other guy or put their hands on little towels and stuff and all that. They got their ways around it. Or the later day weigh-ins, like most of these guys who are like, oh no, we're coming from out of town, and they're driving down. They still supposedly they made weight, but I was like, well, you took all that time cutting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
I think they call that towel one. They call it the Cormier.
Yeah, the Cormier stuff. Yeah.
In the streets, they call it the Cormier. Hey, last thing. Let's end with this. Obviously you had a terrible loss this summer, Coach Saul Solis, and I'm sure you're probably going to grieve for a while. But how are you doing? How's your team, the community? How's everybody doing? It's been about a month now, maybe a little bit over. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that's difficult. Over here in Las Vegas, there was a coach named Robert Follis who passed away about 3-4 years ago, and I know there's some fighters that still, talk about how it's taken them a while to adjust because, like you posted eloquently on social media, he was like a father figure as well as a coach. How you doing?
Man, honestly, it's been a lot. It's been a lot lately, especially with because I was pretty much his assistant, pretty much like his like if he couldn't show up to a session, I would take over the fighter program for the day, and like I'd be the go-to guy. And now it's like kind of like I just turned into like almost like the head coach, like almost kind of like inherited it. So it's like I ended up having to take up so much responsibility, and like just like overnight, like literally like a snap of a finger, I just ended up having to be like taking up the role. And it was a lot of responsibilities like just to take on. And like it was hard. Like, man, like when Leo Mano Martinez fought, man, I literally the day before it was my coach's funeral and everything. So it was like it was really hard at those times, because it's and like I almost kind of had this like imposter syndrome type of going on, because I'm like I'm trying to be a coach, trying to be a fighter, and I'm also trying to be able to grieve as a just as a person, because he was really close. And whenever my father passed away, he took a big step up. He didn't have to. He didn't have to do any of the stuff that he did for me, but he did. And like he kept me in the gym. He gave me a job. Like he made sure that I was good, and he made sure like consistently always made sure that I was good. He like and man, he would always take me out to lunches and dinners, and just we talk about like where he would want me to be. Like he would be like, no, let's set up game plans, let's start doing this. And he was always consistently like in the betterment of me, and it never necessarily even had to like be uh it none of it benefited him at all, because I like after a year of being with Coach Saul, whenever I first started, I never paid a gym due after that. I'd never paid a gym due. He never made me pay for training or anything like that. And I've always like I've always like was super thankful, always thankful of his time, and I was always super grateful of what he was able to give me. And so whenever I got to the UFC and everything, I made sure I paid him. Like I was like, man, like I couldn't like I didn't have enough to pay him before, but now that I do, I'm gonna pay you like more than what you're asking. Like I'm gonna give you more than what you're asking, because you deserve it. Like you like if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been here. And I remember like the first time I gave him a check, and he called me back and said that's too much money. And I was like, it's like no, it's not. It's not. So like being able to uh being able to like have those moments with them, and being able to like get to the UFC, because and like he's had a fighter in almost like he's had fighters in the UFC these past like every decade from 2000 to 2000, from the 2000s to 2010s, and now the 2020s. And unfortunately he's not here for the rest of the 2020s, but he was able to do it for uh I guess three generations, I guess, if that's how you'd be able to say it. So three generations of fighters in the UFC. And uh for me to be the one that was in for the 2020s, like I'm blessed. And the fact that I was even able to have that, like to do that for him, and be able to like be the guy that was able to like hold the torch up and still run, like that made me feel very special, very not made me feel very good, because like it just like it was weird, because like after these last like year and a half to 2 years, like I just noticed the difference in his like aura, his presence. Like he he felt like he felt more happier as well, because once I got the contract and we sat around, we got the next fight, and then we got the next fight. And then uh like in March, whenever I knocked out Gustavo, like he was super ecstatic. He was like it was I sensed a different person. I sensed a different guy. And like that, like it was great. It was really great. Like it was almost like Zen. Like in the whenever whenever everything happened, he was I don't know. It was weird, because he would always talk about like me and my other training partner Cameron just like picking up where he left off and going. And we'd always be like, no, like, hey, no, you're gonna be here forever and all that stuff, because literally he was like another like again like a father figure. So it's like it does hurt, it does suck, But if we weren't out here pushing and keeping the ball rolling, I know he'd be really upset. So that's another thing that's been keeping me going. Like, I had to keep this running. Like, there's no other ways around it. We had to keep rolling. Just like his life is, you had to keep the ball rolling, keep moving. I have had my time to grieve, but also it's still like it's not an overnight process. So it still hurts at times, because I still have my, like, he was like the only person that would hold mitts for me, and now that I have that I would have my brother or my my training partner Cameron hold mitts for me. Like, I get like it right now. It's getting easier, but I still have those moments of, like, he would call out a combination, he would call out the exact combination. I'd be like, it would freeze me a little bit, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna lie about it. Like, it has been hard. It has been hard, but I've been pushing through it. And whenever I come out victorious, November 20th, like, it's gonna make it so much all the more better, because then I'll be able to just to be able to be like, all right, I knocked out a top contender. I knocked out a top guy who's been around the UFC for a very long time. Like, I did it. Like, man, let's go. Let's move on to the next, because after that fight, it's gonna be like, hey, we got to move on to the next thing anyway. So, but I will have I've had my time to grieve and, like, slow down and everything. So I don't know. It's just still kind of like, there's, like, I see a person walk in with, like, the same stature that he has, and God, like, I just think it's him. So it's weird, because person who I would see, like, every single day, now that I don't see that person at all, like, you get a glimpse of someone who looks same stature, and it's like, it trips you out. But honestly, it's a work in progress. But I won't lie about that one.
Well, just seeing your emotion, I can tell obviously it is in progress. You're still grieving, but that's great. I think it's great that it hurts, because it kind of shows us just how much he meant to you. You know what I mean? You read about someone in the paper that you didn't know, you pause for a moment and go, oh man, parents must be devastated. They lost their kid, or the roles are reversed. Kids lost their parents. But then you move on because you don't know them, But in this case, like you said, you guys were tight in many ways. And now you're kind of paying forward and paving the way for your team, stepping up. I'm sure he's looking down. He's proud of you. He's proud of you now. He'll be proud of your career, everything you make of it. So I think that's awesome, and the tribute, the kind words you just said, the tribute that you just gave is beautiful. I'm sure his friends and family will want to hear that, and I'm sure they read a lot of it on social media. I saw Eve Edwards, Tim Kennedy, a lot of the Texas people stepped up. Mick Maynard, a lot of people calling him godfather of MMA in the state of Texas. I thought that was outstanding. Goes and I got to know him just a little bit, especially in the early years, but I just remember him being a very, very nice man and cool as a cucumber, you know what I mean? And he did it for, I was thinking, late 90s, you could almost say that you got the tail end of that decade, then 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2020, and then the early part of this decade. So he's kind of touched probably on 4 generations now. So that's just an incredible mark for him to leave behind. But it should hurt is what I'm trying to say. And there's nothing wrong with showing it. And I think it's going to make it that much sweeter because of the connection that you guys had, the bond that you guys had. If it was easy to dismiss, then you probably would know that, maybe the relationship wasn't as special, but it's not. And that's what's going to make it all special throughout your career. You're going to carry him with you throughout your career.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like the thing that is honestly is keeping me like a really like motivated and like goal oriented forward with everything is like, I know what I want for myself, but also what I want for myself is going to benefit like what I'm doing, because if I go out there, I get the belt, it's still going to be under Saul Solis. Like he turned me into the fighter I am today, and it's going to be a Saul Solis belt. And then on top of that, once after I get the belt and everything, and I do finish off my career, man, I get to raise the next generation and be a coach myself, because I do have aspirations. And he always knew that I wanted to be a coach as well. So it's like, it makes it perfect for me to be like, all right, cool. I got these new group of fighters that I'm taking the reins of reins off of Saul's hands, and I'm taking them. Now it's time for me. Once I'm done with my career at being a champ and everything, I get to turn these guys into champs, and this all still stems off the same thing. So like it's to me, I'm very motivated. Like I'm like very motivated. Like it does like again, it does hurt, it does suck, but like the being able to honor his name with everything, like it drives me a lot.
Nice. All right, Adrian. Well, listen, man, great chat as always with you. You always keep it real. We really, really enjoy catching up with you pre and post fight. Hopefully we can continue this throughout your career. Have a safe camp for the next couple months. And I guess, when the fight comes, we'll probably do, one more, see how everything went. And keep doing your thing out there in Texas, man. And thanks as always for the time.
Thank y'all for the platform, man. Thank y'all so much.